All right, Raider Nation, we need to talk. Things are starting to get real in Las Vegas, and it feels like we're standing right at the edge of turning point for this team. The trade deadline is coming fast, November 4th, for in the afternoon Easter time. And every year people say the same thing: trades never happen. But that's just not true anymore. This season we've already seen movement around the league, and history tells us the deals usually start flying when the clock starts ticking down. Deadlines make deals, and the Raiders are sitting in a position where something's got to give. According to recent reports, over the last 6 seasons, the month of October leading up to the deadline has averaged nearly 15 trades each year across the NFL. And guess what? There's one name from the silver and black that's been making noise: Jakobi Meyers. He's the only Raider that got mentioned as a possible trade candidate in a major national report, and that alone says a lot about where this organization stands right now. If you've been watching this team, you probably already know that number 16 has been the player most likely to get moved since the start of the offseason. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If someone from this roster ends up packing their bags, it's probably going to be Jakobi Meyers. Why? Because the situation around the Raiders is messy. You're sitting at 2 wins and 4 losses, and not a confident 2 and 4 either. It's been a rough stretch, and even when this team wins, it doesn't really feel like a win. Remember that game against the Tennessee Titans? That was supposed to be a moment to celebrate, but instead it felt like one of the most deflating victories in recent memory. The energy around the fan base after that game was weirdly quiet, almost like nobody really believed in the direction of this team anymore. The hope, the fire, the trust, it's all slipping. And when that happens, players start to look around the locker room and wonder what's really going on. Now, when you're a struggling team sitting at 2 and 4, you're not exactly in buy mode. It makes more sense to sell, retool, and start thinking about the future. But in football, one big win can change everything. If the Raiders somehow pull off a victory against Kansas City, the entire conversation shifts overnight. Still, there are legitimate reasons why people believe Jakobi Meyers could be traded. For one, he literally asked to be traded earlier this year, right before the season kicked off. That's not speculation. That actually happened. He wanted a new contract, a bigger deal that matched his value. But the front office didn't budge. The Raiders made it clear they weren't willing to meet the number that Meyers and his agent were asking for. From what's been reported, the figure was somewhere in the range of $17 to $18 million per year. But the word is that Meyers wanted even more than that. So, imagine this from his perspective. You ask for a trade, the team says no, and then refuses to meet your asking price. That's not exactly a great way to start a season. To make things even worse, there were people within the organization who weren't happy with how the whole situation was handled. You can feel that kind of tension, and it lingers in the locker room. Then, just a couple of days after that, the Raiders went out and signed Amari Cooper, only for him to retire soon after. You can't make this stuff up. So here's where we're at. You've got a team that isn't winning, a wide receiver who's already asked out once, a contract dispute that hasn't been resolved, and an upcoming free agency window. If the Raiders don't intend to pay Jakobi, why keep him around just to let him walk for nothing? That's the argument. But the counterpoint is interesting too. The Raiders have been drafting wide receivers: Jack Beck in the 2nd round, Dante Thornton Jr. in the 4th. And even if those rookies haven't made a big splash yet, the moves suggest a plan. Drafting 2 young receivers while refusing to extend your current number 1 option, that speaks louder than any press conference quote ever could. It's like the front office is saying, we're preparing for life after Jakobi. Whether that's smart or short-sighted, that's up for debate. But actions usually reveal the truth. And when a team starts investing in youth at the same position where a veteran is due for a payday, it doesn't take a genius to see where it's headed. Still, for as much as people talk about him being on the move, there's also a good chance he stays. I'd say it's basically a coin flip. Maybe 51% chance he stays, 49% chance he's traded. And it all comes down to the offer. If another team throws a 3rd-round pick or higher on the table, it might be goodbye. Now, you have to consider what's best for the offense. The Raiders have invested heavily in quarterback Geno Smith and offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. Those are the guys they're building around this season. Trading away your top receiver in the middle of that process doesn't exactly help the development of your offense. If Brock Bowers isn't fully healthy, removing another key weapon from the equation would make life even harder for Smith and Kelly. And when you look at it that way, keeping Jakobi around starts to make more sense. There's another factor that could keep him in Vegas, the compensatory pick rule. If the Raiders let him walk in free agency, and he signs a big deal elsewhere in 2026, the team could receive a fourth-round compensatory pick in return. So, why would you trade him now for a fourth when you could keep him, help your quarterback, and still get that pick later? It's not the same exact value, but it's close enough that it makes you think twice about pulling the trigger on a deal. Still, there's a lot of noise out there. Teams are hungry for receivers right now. The Buffalo Bills need help badly. The Patriots could always use another weapon, and there's that connection with Josh McDaniels. The New York Giants, the Commanders, the Buccaneers, all of them are reportedly exploring their options. And according to a source close to the situation, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the #1 team currently showing interest in Jakobi Meyers. That could have something to do with injuries on their roster, but the link makes sense. Every team in the league looks at a player like Meyers and thinks, yeah, he can make us better. And they're right. He's a solid, reliable receiver who can fit in almost anywhere. Now, while the spotlight has been on Meyers, the Raiders have been quietly making smaller moves too. They recently signed offensive guard McClendon Curtis to the practice squad. That might not sound like much, but if you followed Curtis coming out of college, you know he's got potential. He's a tough player who originally signed as an undrafted free agent, then spent some time with Seattle and showed flashes of real promise. Moves like that may seem minor, but they can hint at bigger plans down the road. Maybe it's just a depth move, or maybe it's the first step toward a roster shakeup. And if we're talking about players who could be on the move, don't sleep on names like Dylan Parham. He's been mentioned as a possible trade candidate too, especially with the team's clear interest in Alex Kappa and McClendon Curtis. It's not hard to connect the dots. When a team starts bringing in players who play your position, it usually means they're exploring options. So, here we are again, less than a month before the deadline, rumors swirling, fans debating whether the Raiders should sell or stay the course. It's the same cycle every year, but this time feels different. There's a weird mix of uncertainty and opportunity. The Raiders aren't completely out of the playoff picture, but they're not really in it either. It's a strange gray area where one decision, one trade, could set the tone for the rest of the season and maybe even the future of the franchise. So, if the Raiders decide to make moves before the deadline, the question becomes this: are they going to be buyers or sellers? We've talked about Jakobi Meyers and why he's the most likely player to be dealt, but if the front office chooses to add instead of subtract, who are the guys they might actually target? Because let's be honest, this roster still has holes, and plenty of them. There are needs on both sides of the ball, and if the Raiders want to turn things around fast, they'll need to make some aggressive yet smart decisions. According to the same report that mentioned Meyers, there are 33 players league-wide who could be available. Some are big names, others are depth pieces, but a few of them make real sense for what the Raiders are trying to build. And when you look closely at the list, you start to see patterns. Struggling teams trying to unload veterans, contending teams trying to shed salary, and a handful of players just looking for a new start. The question for Las Vegas is whether they're ready to spend draft capital to bring someone in, or if they'll just hold on to their picks and ride out the rest of the season. Now, before we talk names, let's be clear about one thing. Nobody expects the Raiders to go on a shopping spree. This is not a team that's one player away from contending for a championship. If they buy, it'll be cheap, calculated, and probably focused on younger players or guys who can help in multiple spots. It's not about star power right now. It's about building a Real foundation. And that's why some of the more interesting names floating around aren't household superstars, but rather underappreciated, versatile players who could quietly make a difference. The first name that jumps out is Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I know it sounds wild. A veteran wide receiver who's been a consistent producer for years might not be the obvious target for a team like Las Vegas, but think about it. If Jakobi Meyers does get traded, you're going to need a veteran presence in that room. You can't just throw a couple of rookies out there and expect your quarterback to figure it all out on his own. Lockett has chemistry with Geno Smith from their time together. He's dependable, and he knows how to create separation even when his speed isn't what it used to be. Plus, he'd be a great mentor for those younger receivers like Jack Beck and Dante Thornton Jr. It's the kind of move that says, we're not quitting on the season, but we're also thinking about development. Now, flipping it over to the defensive side, there are a few potential fits that stand out. One of them is Anfernee Jennings from New England. He's a linebacker and edge hybrid, a solid run defender who can set the edge and bring some toughness to the defense. The Patriots might be looking to move him, and the Raiders need more physicality at that position. If a deal involving Meyers and a pick ever got discussed, Jennings could easily be a piece that comes back the other way. He wouldn't be a flashy addition, but he'd make the defense more stable. Another player to watch is Kyle Dugger, also from New England. Now, this one's interesting because Dugger's name has been floating around for a while. He's athletic, explosive, and can play multiple roles in the secondary. The Raiders have struggled in coverage, and it's been painful watching young defensive backs get exposed week after week. Dugger could fix that problem overnight. He's built for a defense that loves to use 3 safety sets, and with Lonnie Johnson Jr. still dealing with injuries, adding a player like Dugger would give Patrick Graham a lot more flexibility. The challenge, of course, is money. Dugger's contract isn't cheap, and neither side is eager to eat that salary. But if the Raiders believe they can contend next season, this would be the kind of forward-thinking move that helps speed up that process. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The football world is buzzing this week, with whispers out of Las Vegas suggesting that quarterback Jalen Milroe has agreed to a 3-year contract with the Raiders. While neither the team nor Milroe's camp has made an official announcement, multiple insiders claim the deal is done and that the former Alabama standout is preparing to make silver and black his new colors. Milroe, known for his explosive athleticism and deep ball accuracy, has long been on the radar of teams searching for a dynamic dual-threat quarterback. His stock rose dramatically over the past season, and rumors linking him to the Raiders have been gaining traction for weeks. Now, sources close to the situation hint that the franchise has secured its man, one they believe could finally stabilize the position that's been in flux since the Derek Carr era ended. According to the whispers, the deal spans 3 years with performance-based incentives that could push the total value higher. Raiders fans, restless after yet another season of offensive inconsistency, have already begun to dream of what Milroe could bring to the desert. Speed, swagger, and a sense of unpredictability that's been missing from the team's playbook. Still, questions remain. Is Milroe ready to handle the pressure of leading one of the NFL's most scrutinized franchises? Can he translate his college success into the pro game's faster pace and more complex defensive schemes? Those doubts haven't stopped the excitement from spreading through social media and sports talk shows, where speculation has reached fever pitch. If confirmed, this move signals a bold step by the Raiders' front office, a gamble on youth, athleticism, and potential over proven experience. Whether it pays off remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The buzz in Las Vegas hasn't been this electric in years. And if the rumors are true, Jalen Milroe may soon be the face of a new era for the Raiders. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.